share my story of grace and how God has manifested that grace to me in my life. What is grace? Thomas Keating, in his book Awakenings, tells us that grace is the presence and action of Christ in our lives, inviting us to let go of where we are and to be open to new values that are born every time we penetrate to a new understanding of the gospel. I can relate to this understanding in the sense that for me, moments of grace have been moments of growth in my spiritual life. We all have these moments. We are all here today, and our journeys to here are all unique. We all have our stories. I was curious if I could go back and pinpoint those pivotal moments in my life that have led me here today. No doubt this is an oversimplification, but it's my memory and those things that stand out on my journey of faith. My first sense of God came from my Catholic school experience, growing up in Southern California in the 50s and the 60s. Maybe a few of you have shared this experience. Catholic school, maybe? There was security in this identity, and the values were reinforced at home. It was rather an idyllic childhood in the Leave It to Beaver sense for me. At least it was on the surface. My mother played the June Cleaver role. My dad was a typical corporate dad, complete with a fedora and briefcase and a drink waiting for him when he got home. My mother cooked and stayed home, and there was security in the roles we played. My two older sisters excelled at school, and I did okay. I had a lot of neighborhood friends. My dad, a former Marine, was loving and supportive in a no-nonsense kind of way. It was a good childhood from my child's perspective. But there were cracks in the facade. There were incidents I couldn't understand and no one talked about. I started retreating into a pretend world where everything would stay perfect. It wasn't until I was in college that I learned the extent of my mother's mental illness. Her psychotic episodes, the shock treatments, the heavy medications. Where was God in all of this? The security of religion no longer made sense to me. I looked to my father for strength and security. My dad encouraged me to go away to college. I can remember his saying that there was a whole world out there and that I needed to go. I went to the South, a romanticized New Orleans, a step back in time and away from the chaotic 60s and my psychotic mother. I knew it was selfish, but at the time, I also knew that I had to go. It wasn't idyllic. It was the early 70s and the Vietnam War and hippies and confusion and some values that were foreign to me. Like the time when I was in college and I used to volunteer with the underprivileged, and one day I was down at the pool and all these little black kids that I had been working with, they all came up to hug me and I was hugging them back, and a friend from there said, "Nancy, I know you're not from around here, but we don't touch them." Well, needless to say, I was shocked and horrified and confused. Enter my college sweetheart, whom I met at Mardi Gras, which is a whole other story. And he became, as with my father, my source of strength and normalcy, and I come to that. My first year teaching at an inner city New Orleans school was an eye-opener. Barbed wire encircled the crumbling school, and I tried to corral my class of first graders, not very effectively. I cried in frustration at my lack of preparation for this experience. And I later found myself teaching in a Catholic school, preparing second graders for First Communion. I felt like a hypocrite. I wasn't sure I really believed everything I was teaching. My nun friend in first grade said that she wanted me to go talk to this friend of hers who was a monk. He was actually the abbot at the nearby monastery. And what he said to me was one of these moments of grace which changed my thinking. I'm paraphrasing, but what he said was, church is a means to an end. The end, that goal, is your relationship with God. If it helps you find God, that's great. But never make your religion your God. Wow. Never make your religion your God. For the first time, I started thinking about a God beyond the confines of religion. Huge for me, but a lifetime to really figure out. Grace. I started praying in a new way. A personal God who cared about me, who wasn't just judging me. I wanted this relationship. Maybe your religion is a great path for finding God, or maybe you are still searching. This is my story of grace. About this time, my husband's career started taking off, and our family grew. We moved Houston, Connecticut, the Netherlands, Canada, Qatar, Virginia. Each time we moved, I prayed that God would bring people into my life that would bring me closer to him. So many people, so many moments of grace and growth. In Houston, when my children were all babies, I joined the church, still Catholic. I went to Bible study because they had free babysitting, and I had 3 kids under 5 years old. While in Houston, I was led to the Cenacle, a retreat house, where I learned about meditation and centering prayer. One particular moment of grace is really kind of silly, but it was grace for me, was when the priest giving the retreat said, go ask for a sign from God. God's going to give you a sign. Just go ask for it. So we went out and milled around in the beautiful setting, and I sat down in my chair that I brought, and I'm looking up in the sky, and I'm like, oh, there's a bird. It's kind of in the shape of a cross. Is that it, God? And I'm looking up, and about that time, my chair, was one of those webbed ones, totally collapses. And I fall down through the middle of it, and I'm stuck in there, flailing. And about that time, the priest walks by, and he says, oh, I see you got your sign. And I was like, oh my gosh, I did get my sign. Stop looking for me in the sky. I'm right here in the messiness of everyday life. Wow. Grace. I started seeing God in everyday life and situations. This God was not confined to church or religion or any preconceived expectations. Maybe your inspiration is more significant, or you're still looking for that direction, but this is my story. In Connecticut, a sterile church led me to seek out God in other venues. A Life in the Spirit seminar opened up the idea of Holy Spirit to me, this intangible presence who could speak to my heart. I started getting these nudges. Call that person. Go visit this person. Go ask to pray with this person who was hurting. Definitely not my comfort zone. Grace. I started getting out of myself, learning that this relationship with God had some strings attached. I was supposed to share this gift. Not preachy, but just be there for others. Maybe your motivation to love people is less weird, or God's voice is even clearer for you. This is my story. In the Netherlands, the church bells sang beautifully every Sunday morning. The churches sat empty. We had Mass at the American school. My Dutch neighbor was shocked when I told her we went to church. She informed me that nobody goes to church anymore. Shocked me. In Canada, some disturbing childhood memories of my mother resurfaced. It was a very difficult experience for me, reliving some childhood trauma and counseling, but praying through it at the same time with spiritual direction. It was during this period that I had a vivid dream. I was in the kitchen of my childhood, and I opened the curtains, and this light just came pouring in. I can only say it was healing. I was able to forgive my mother completely for things that were out of her control. Grace. Light literally illuminated my relationship with my mother. I was given this image of a garden, so real, where I could sit and talk with Jesus. I was prompted to bring those people that I was praying for into that garden. I know it sounds corny, but it was very real for me, and still is. I brought my mother into that garden, and I watched as Jesus carried her down to the pool, and lovingly held her. She wasn't healed, but I was. Maybe you can forgive the people who hurt you, or maybe you aren't ready to yet. Wait for grace. In Qatar, the call to prayer was shouted from the mosques 5 times a day. It eventually became my own call to remember to pray. I taught at the American school where my children attended. Americans made up only 20% of the students. What a diverse, delightful experience this was for all of us. There was one Catholic priest for the whole country. He was from San Diego. He had actually worked with Mother Teresa in India. My husband wasn't Catholic, but had always supported me in my spiritual quest and would come to church with me. We had church services in our home in Qatar. Our day was Tuesday. That was our Sunday. And I remember Father John telling Bob, of course you can come to communion. Jesus is here for everyone. And in the Catholic Church, you couldn't. If you weren't Catholic, you don't go to communion. And I was like, yes, yes. Eventually, we made our way back to the States, Virginia. Suburban life was difficult for all of us. When you're overseas, friends become family and friendships are deep. It was hard to find substance. Bob and I bought property a bit west on the Shenandoah River. It was our escape, and eventually we built out there. Our oldest son got married during this time and moved to Savannah with his wife. He surprised us one day when he casually mentioned that he and Kelly were going to join a Methodist church. So I'm like, great. Great, Matt. Inside I was in turmoil. You have to understand, when you're raised Catholic, you don't just stop being Catholic. It's part of your identity. Well, the next thing I know, Matt is now going to become a Methodist pastor. And on a visit home, he asked us to go with him to the little Methodist church down the street. It was a little church that was a hospital during the Civil War. And Bob says, of course we will. And I'm like, sure, of course we will. Well, for all my open-mindedness and grace-filled moments, I was apprehensive because I'd never been in a church that wasn't a Catholic church. And first of all, I walk in and everybody's talking. And there's no kneelers. And the pastor is a woman. I'm like, whoa. But the service starts, and I'm filled with this incredible peace. And it was so simple. And I'm like, okay, God, I feel your presence here. Grace. God was telling me that here is yet another place you're going to find me. Be open. Maybe you've never felt that peace in a church. Maybe you feel it right here. This is my story. We eventually joined that church, and I've had a feeling of peace. I'm still thankful for my Catholic roots and the events that led me there, but I have total peace that God is everywhere. So here we are. We're now in our dream house, complete with horses on the Shenandoah River in Virginia. Our children are launched, living their lives, still keeping close connections. You're always close when you move around a lot because you kind of have to depend on each other. We're still really close. Anyway, Bob gets a phone call about a possible job at a startup alternative energy company near Boulder. Without even thinking, I said, I could live in Colorado. And the next thing I know, we're here. And and we're buying property up in Nederland, about halfway up to Ward, weekend property. And then Bob dies. And it was totally unexpected. It was a shock. And wow, now what do I do? I mean, he was my rock. He was a good man like my father. He was security. My world was shattered. I recently pulled out a journal from that time, and the very first entry I wrote was, grief slams into me, it grabs me from behind and chokes me. The grieving process was slow and hard, but I prayed. I was drawn to this church. I cried a lot that first year. I cried probably every Sunday, but I kept coming back. And God's love and grace got me through it. Amazing people have come into my life. I've asked God, what now? Who am I now that my security has been ripped away? And a word that kept coming to me was trust. Grace. God showed me that being wounded and vulnerable can be an opportunity for growth. Maybe you are able to trust through your grief. Maybe you're still choking. Hang on, he's there. So I built our house in Nederland, and with the hope that family and friends of family and friends of friends would come and experience moments of refreshment in this beautiful place. And it's been pretty incredible. I found that I was becoming more open and reaching out of myself more and more. Grace. I've learned to listen more and see God in unexpected places and people. God is not confined to a religion or a church. He really is everywhere. And my relationship with God is deepened through church and people and creation and relationship. I'm trying to stay open and realize and remember that moments of grace can come anywhere at any time. And here I am at this place and time. And this is my story of grace. P.S. My father retired early from a stressful Los Angeles job and moved with my mother to the family farm in Vermont, where he grew Christmas trees and made maple syrup. My mother was never physically healed, and her body and mind remained tormented. But I was able to be there for her and see past that and love her. She had a window of clarity when my oldest son was born, and I treasure that time. It was a moment of grace. And another moment in later years when my dad asked me to help her in the shower, and I wrapped her, that fragile body, in a towel, and I just held her, and it was grace. It was a grace moment. My sisters live there in Vermont now, and they still make maple syrup. I feel like I'm being called to go home and be there with them and for them